Hello and happy Black Girl Freedom Week. I am Dr. Monique Couvson, President and CEO of Grantmakers for Girls of Color. I am thrilled to be joined today by Georgette Gigi Dixon. We all know her as Gigi. And Gigi is the Executive Vice President and Head of External Engagement for Diverse Segments, Representation, and Inclusion for Wells Fargo and Company. Her team advances diversity, equity, and inclusion by leading and amplifying efforts externally to ensure that people across their workforce, communities, and supply chain feel valued and respected and have equal access to resources, services, products, and opportunities to succeed. She currently serves as National Board of Directors or as a member of the National Board of Directors for the NAACP and Vice Chair for the NAACP Foundation. She's Vice Chairman of the U.S. Black Chambers Incorporated. She's a corporate advisory board member for Unidos US, chair of the Opera Carolina Board of Advisors, and trustee of the Trust of the National Mall. And she serves on many, many more boards of significance, but I want to make sure that there's time for us to have a conversation today. And I could spend all 30 minutes reading your bio, Gigi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Monique.
I want to start by asking you to tell me a story about your own Black girlhood and a moment where you felt invested in. That's what we're talking about today, our investments in Black girls. So when you had that moment, think back to a moment where you felt that you were invested in as a girl. What did it feel like? And what possibilities did it open up for you?
I have to say I've had lots of Black girl moments where I felt invested in, but one that sticks out really prominently for me was when I was attending college at Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee. I was fresh on the college campus, not more than 1 week on campus. I started college in the first summer session prior to my freshman year. And as I walked to the student center on campus, there was a young woman sitting on the stairs of the student center. And she stopped me. She said, "Are you new?" And I said, "Yes, I am." We had just a brief conversation just about what my goals and aspirations were for my college experience. And I found out during the course of that conversation that she was a student leader at Tennessee State University. She was the president of the chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated on campus. And she said to me in that conversation, she said, I just ran for SGA president here. And she said, that's the highest political office on campus. And I lost by 17 votes. She said, in 3 years, you'll be eligible to run for student government president. She said, I challenge you to think about preparing yourself to do that, because by then I think this campus will be ready for a woman president. We just weren't ready right now. And so sure enough, over the years that passed, the next 3 years, I did end up becoming a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated while there. But I also ended up getting very engaged in student activities and student leadership. And I did become the first female president of student government in the history of Tennessee State University. I really felt invested in by Dr. Sarah Miner. She became a doctor after she graduated from Tennessee State. Back then, her name was Sarah Miner, but I felt very invested in by her. And she kept investing in me along my journey through college and even beyond, staying in contact with her. Her sister actually ended up pledging Delta with me or becoming a member of Delta Sigma Theta with me. And so that's an investment that really sticks out for me.
I see why. Aside from joining the greatest sorority on the planet, couldn't resist. We are all in sisterhood. We are all in sisterhood. But I think, what stands out to me really, honestly and seriously about that story is that there was a person on campus who saw you and didn't say, this person is new, carry on with your business or ignore you, but saw you, suggested and planted a seed because she saw a leadership potential in you that maybe you weren't even aware of at the time. And because she challenged you from your initial interaction, which is really incredible when you think about it, challenged you from your initial interaction, it told you that other people can also witness what I'm sure you already knew was inside, right? It wasn't about her telling you you can do it because you don't think you can. I'm sure you knew you could, but you knew this. She suggested to you that an opportunity was possible and that a world would be ready for you. And so that, to me, really says a lot about how we might consider approaching many of the young people that we come into contact with today.
I think it's really important. And I'll tell you that you're right. I did not know that what she saw in me was there. I did not. And just by answering her challenge, by responding to her challenge, I really had the opportunity to explore my own leadership capability and to experience lots of success along the way. I would also share that because I did take on that challenge and I did become student government president, that opportunity led to me being recruited by Procter & Gamble Distributing Company as an employee before I even graduated from Tennessee State. They recruited me before I graduated to start with them immediately upon graduation. And I did that. So the visibility and the awareness of who I was as a student leader and my track record as a leader really led to the launch of my professional career, which is what you heard about today.
Yeah, I love that. I think, this year's theme for the Black Girl Freedom Week focuses on supporting Black girls and gender-expansive youth's artistic genius, innovation,
Yes.
Capacity and activism. And, I think for those who know you, know that your leadership has actually manifested in a lot of different ways because you have a lot of different talents. And so is there any one of those themes that you are particularly passionate about? And can you talk about why?
I'm really passionate about artistic talent and innovation. I love to try new things. The artistic talent, it actually explains a lot about me. I went to Tennessee State to study speech communication and theater. I studied opera in high school and love the performing arts. I've performed semi-professionally in musical theater, and I am a writer-editor. So my degree is speech communication theater. I had aspired to be the Black Barbara Walters because back then you just didn't see a lot of Black women in media. And that's what I told my department head at Tennessee State when she interviewed me as a freshman. She looked at me and she said, "Okay, you sound just like Oprah." And I said, "What, Oprah? Who is that?" And she said, "Oh, she's not here anymore, but she's doing well in broadcasting." And that sounds like something she would say. And so I didn't know who Oprah was at that time because her career had not really gotten as big as it is today. But I look back on that experience and say, wow, awesome. But I didn't take that path ultimately. And so my creative experience and all of those talents have, I think, contributed greatly to my professional experience, even in corporate America. Because the one thing that we do know is that if we have the courage to try new things and to take all the skills and talents that we have within us to make those things come to pass, then we may be able to discover something that we wouldn't have otherwise discovered. But the key is courage, it's creativity, and it's commitment to doing something, to making something happen. And so that's worked well for me. But the creativity is probably number one. Innovation is close behind that.
How is that reflected in what you do at Wells Fargo?
So at Wells Fargo, I've had the opportunity to exercise my creativity and innovation a lot. At my 28th year, this year marks my 28th year here in this organization. I've been able to build out new capacity for the bank, new capacity around strategic partnerships. You mentioned some of the organizations that I work with. My team manages a portfolio that includes the NAACP, the National Urban League, the National Council of Negro Women, UNIDOS US, which is the largest Hispanic Latino advocacy group in America, LULAC, which is another large Hispanic Latino advocacy group and is the oldest in America, Native American organizations. We try to have representation across all the diverse segments and some dimensions as well in our portfolio. But I created that platform for the bank years ago when we had the need to demonstrate, openly demonstrate our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And also we had the need for insights and feedback and engagement with those communities, and those organizations provide us a way to actively engage with their constituency that represents the diverse communities across our nation. We get a better understanding of what the needs are in those communities and how we can help meet those needs as a financial services provider.
I love that, because a lot of times when people think about ways of engaging with communities of color, and especially if they're working with some of the big, large legacy organizations like the ones you just named, they don't tend to think about girls, right? They don't tend to think about the population that's held within those legacy organizations that are reflective of the population that we primarily work with and in service to and with and for. And those are Black girls, femmes, and gender-expansive youth. And every one of those organizations that you just named, that's who we can find among those populations. And so when you think about your personal commitment and how girls have shown up in your work, can you talk a little bit more about your framework or your thinking about the commitments that you make and the impact that it could potentially have on the lives and livelihood of Black girls?
Well, absolutely. Our intent is to make sure that we are inclusive in how we invest and how we engage. And that part of inclusivity around girls is very important, because women and girls, as a banking and financial services company, we're looking at your financial life. We're very, very interested in your financial health, quite frankly, and your ability to build wealth, to have a nice, firm financial foundation, and to be able to sustain good financial health and grow and ultimately create your financial legacy, building wealth. Ideally, at some point, as Black women, we can look and say that, we have generational wealth because of what I was able to do as a Black female, as a mother, a wife, a caregiver. And so with women and girls, we have a unique financial life. And that's something that sits at top of mind when we engage these organizations. We do want to reach out to the women. With the NAACP specifically, we've supported the women in the NAACP, which is sort of an auxiliary of the NAACP, for years, making sure that we put good information, content, and resources into the hands of the women that represent the women in the NAACP, financial literacy programs, things like that over the years. And I would also say that if we don't start with women and girls on finance, then we're missing a very important component of our population that makes a lot of the buying decisions. A lot. Women inherit the wealth because women typically have a longer life than men. So we would be remiss if we didn't focus on women and girls as we roll out and engage in programs, even our products and service mix. We have to consider gender.
I love that. And one of the things that we're doing at G4GC is ensuring that the world understands that, yes, we do make many of the financial decisions of the household, particularly the buying decisions, and our girls and young women and femmes and gender-expansive young people are more than consumers, right? They are running businesses. They are moving resources out into community, and that's where the innovation meets some of the creativity that plays out in the power they hold in our communities, where so many, Black girls, femmes, and gender-expansive youth think about their economic enterprises sometimes as side hustles, rather than thinking about them as legitimate enterprises that can generate wealth and build that type of legacy wealth that you were just describing, right? So I appreciate that there is this expansive way for us to think about how we move money, how we move resources, and how we elevate in the public consciousness the value of Black girls, femmes, and gender expansive youth in our economic structures, in our society, and importantly, most importantly, in our families.
Absolutely. And you talked about the entrepreneurial spirit too. And what I would say is one of the things that I'm very excited about was our response to COVID, the pandemic, and what it did to minority-owned businesses, many of which are women-owned businesses. We encourage entrepreneurship, and I think that girls are so creative and so multi-talented. I think that as women, we naturally simultaneously execute on multiple priorities. That's just what we do. It's called shifting.
Yes.
And so in that process, though, women business owners need access to capital. And so we have created so many programs to provide that access to capital that we know are impacting women-owned businesses, minority women-owned businesses across the U.S. We announced a $420 million program for small business coming out of COVID. And actually just to keep those businesses open during the pandemic, but also to make sure that those businesses had not only capital, but had technical assistance and have, resources for sustainability. So that's one of the things that I'm extremely excited about. I would also say that as entrepreneurs, we need to understand what our banking opportunities are and how to tap into those opportunities. So the $420 million that we provided for small businesses was provided through CDFIs. Those are community development finance institutions that many times our young business owners don't even know these institutions exist. So one of the things that I try to do with my team as we have these great relationships with organizations like NCNW, the National Council of Negro Women, and the NAACP, is bring those insights to the membership, and so that the membership can share with the community that capital is available. And it's been really great for us in our partnerships to do that.
That's fantastic. I love hearing about that. I love the way it also honors, the history and legacy of organizations that have been working at the grassroots level. And it's a way, we talk a lot at G4GC about tapping into ancestral wisdoms. We talk a lot about the ways that our way of engaging in philanthropy may not necessarily be consistent with a popular notion of philanthropy, but that this has always been a part of our Black existence. This has always been a part of our survival mechanisms. And what I love about you talking, I love about your framework around ensuring that these legacy institutions have access to information about emergent strategies, emergent infrastructure, and longstanding infrastructure in some ways, just that's been kept from them, is that we sort of build out a space where we can engage both worlds, right? Where we can engage both the ancestral wisdoms and creativity that have kept our communities alive and operating and thriving in many cases, even under the greatest forms of duress and structural oppression. And we also think then now about how we uplift and engage this tremendous innovation that young people are bringing to the table, and that girls, femmes, and gender-expansive youth in particular, who are a part of our communities, the significant role that they have played, and will continue to play in our articulations about justice, our articulations of justice, our articulations of opportunity, and what that means when we start also talking about moving financial resources to them.
Well, I'll tell you.
So what questions do you have for me?
Well, I do have questions for you. I want to just capstone what you just said, though, with I mentioned that I have two wonderful children, to you. And I would just say to the girls who are listening that there's no greater gift than to have a family. If you're able to have kids, you want kids, and you're able to have them, the thing that you want to do as a parent real quickly is you want to leave a legacy for your kids. And so a lot of the work that I do literally comes from who I am as a human being. I want my kids to have a legacy. And so I am fighting for the financial freedom of all girls, all Black girls, especially girls like me. I'm fighting for your financial freedom and for your financial capability to do whatever your creative mind leads you to do in this world. So, hats off to the girls who take the time to be on this kind of a program. It's pretty awesome. Now, questions for
No,
you.
I love that. I love that. Thank you.
You've committed your life to ensuring that Black girls are front and center through your scholarship and activism work. And I've had the honor of seeing a lot of that commitment. But tell me a little bit more about how you're bringing this work into philanthropy and, what impact is it making so far?
Mhm. Thank you for that. Yes, for me, Black girls are sacred and loved. And I talk about that a lot. And I think about it more as less of a slogan and less even as a mantra, and more as a call to action, right? Um, I, I have my background in research and scholarship. One of the early pieces I wrote was about sacred inquiry and really engaging Black girls in our understanding of how we move out into the world, how we recognize them as valuable, how we use all of the ways that we come to know things to support their well-being. And so for me, in philanthropy, this is just really in many ways an extension of the work that I've always been involved in to elevate and engage in the well-being of our full communities. I said just a few minutes ago that Black girls have long been a part of our, most articulate, engagers around this question of equity and justice.
Yes.
And, in many ways, I say, Black girls are uniquely positioned to have this analysis about justice and to have this analysis about um, uh, what is possible in our communities because they sit on the margins of so much of our infrastructural operations, our infrastructures, our policies, practices, et cetera, which gives them, Black girls, femmes, and gender-expansive youth this way of engaging in challenging us to do better. So in
Yeah.
philanthropy, when I came into lead grant makers for girls of color, it was very important to begin to build out an infrastructure that can actually move who has been in marginal situations and marginal conversations to the center. Our primary operation is to resource organizations and movements that are led by girls, femmes, and gender expansive youth of color. And so when we think about that work, when we think about the 1 billion for Black Girls campaign, when we think about the Black Girl Freedom Fund, to me, that is a way for us to put our money where our mouth is, right?
Yes.
For us to put our resources in a strategic set of investments that can absolutely transform some of the conditions or many of the, hopefully all of the harmful conditions in their lives, but many of the conditions that they face today that are keeping them from a fair opportunity, a fair set of opportunity and the freedom. Years ago, you and I remember us, when I was at the NAACP and we were working together on the development of the financial freedom centers, we were literally wordsmithing and workshopping what this was going to look like. Like, how would we support the financial well-being of Black people? How could we design something that would generate literacy in this space, but also opportunity in this space?
That's right.
And I've taken that with me in a lot of this work to say, in this field of philanthropy, how do we build an infrastructure to ensure that there is a way for Black girls not only to be told that they are sacred and loved, but to feel it, to experience it, to have their bank accounts reflected,
Yes.
to have their feelings respected in a way that allows for them to grow and thrive in the society that we live in. So, for me, it's a call to action.
Absolutely. And I think it's a call to action for all of us. You and I share a real common commitment. As you know, you alluded to the NAACP experience that we had together. And I actually remember us wordsmithing on a flight from LA to Washington, D.C., I think it was. We flew overnight. It was a red eye, and we were wordsmithing and working hard to try to get that recommendation finalized so that we could get it funded, and we got it funded. So hats off to us. But
That's right. Two ambitious Black women trying to make it happen in the middle of the night.
that's right. That's
And we
exactly
made it
right.
happen.
And we got it done. That's what girls can do. And
That's right.
so,
That's right.
you and I do share that whole commitment to advancing civil rights for Black people. And so, where are Black girls positioned in that conversation? Because you kind of alluded to this as well, that a lot of times in our legacy organizations, we haven't seen women at the forefront. I'm very pleased that at the NAACP, our vice chairwoman is Karen Boykin Towns, a powerhouse. We've had a chair emeritus, Rosalind Brock, who is a powerhouse. We've had Myrlie Evers even serve as chairman, in our history at the NAACP. And there are countless other women who are standing on the backbone of the NAACP and its history and its legacy. But where are Black girls today? And you know, what are we missing when we don't specifically work our Black girls into strategies to achieve justice?
I appreciate that. And I know we have just a few minutes left, so I'm going to try to do this quickly. But what we are seeing, and I think in each of those examples, is integration, right? What we are seeing is the engagement of education being supported, opportunity being provided, for there to be this way for our young people, because the NAACP historically really was an organization of young people, right? Bringing
Right.
forth their visions for what society could provide for them. And what it has done is created a cadre of individuals who have a deep commitment to civil rights, to be able to engage not just in the very specific work of these legacy organizations, but to also go into communities and into industries and across sectors that invite this kind of analysis to play out and become more mainstream, right? To become part of what we are building as a popular culture and a popular consciousness around justice. What I love about the inclusion and engagement of Black girls in this space, who again, have always been at the forefront of many of these conversations, right? Brown versus Board of Education, the
That's
Brown
right.
is Linda Brown. There are Black girls who have been at the center of these significant civil rights decisions, and yet they occupy this space where there's a visibility. I always talk about this hyper visibility and simultaneous erasure of their being because we don't explicitly name them. What I think is beautiful about the work that we do with the Black Girl Freedom Fund and here at G4GC is to say, we're going to name you because we see you. And we
Yeah.
recognize that by naming you, we are not participating in any structure or common culture of violence that is facilitated by the erasure of you, even from our language, right? We are going to center you, we're going to engage you. We see you because you're doing it. We know who is out marching, we know who is
Right.
cultivating engagement. What we want to see is that when we don't engage them and name them in the strategy around justice, is that we have less of an opportunity to engage in intersectional analysis that reaches all people, right? That reaches all of our young people, that allow for us to be a much more robust and authentic civil rights, social justice, human rights movement, and allows us to say, okay, not only, again, are we going to just have an articulation around justice, but we are going to talk about how this framework and analysis around justice then impacts the lived experiences and outcomes that we want for our young people and the type of financial investments we are making in young people. If we don't name Black girls, we won't fund Black girls,
Yes.
right? So we name Black girls so we can fund Black girls. We
And
name Black gender-expansive youth and non-conforming young people, gender non-conforming young people, so that we can fund them, so that
that's
we
right.
can engage in a robust community investment that allows for us to be our richest in all of the ways.
I love it. I love it, Dr. Couvson. Monique, my dear sister
Thank you.
friend. I
Thank
love
you,
it.
sister.
This has been just a great conversation. I have to tell you, and I just cannot wait to see all that will be as a result of this commitment, this deep love that you have, and this deep and very active movement that you have begun. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Gigi. Thank you so much for having this conversation and being a part of this growing community of co-investors. Black Girl Freedom Week is a thing, and I'm
Yay.
so glad that you're a part of it.